Welcome to the fifth installment of the CALI Author Training Series. I am Sarah Smith, the Assistant Director of Curriculum Development at CALI. And today we're going to be talking about adding media and supplemental information to your CALI lessons, whether it's those that you're editing or whether it's those that are new that you're authoring yourself. So for media, we'll be discussing how to add images and videos to lessons. And for supplemental information, we'll be talking about two particular CALI author features, which are pop-ups and toolbars, and then just generic links that you can add to a lesson. The overarching goals of adding media to a lesson are, engagement with the student, to broaden the student's understanding of the material, of course, and to aid in the retention of the material. So for images, the types of images that you might consider adding to a lesson are things like diagrams, process flow charts, organizing the material into the charts. This gives another way to learn the material, a better way to visualize the material. And then, of course, things like illustrations and photographs of people, places, and things. Those, of course, can help provide context to the material in the lesson and help with recall of that material. For videos, the types of things that you might consider adding are talking heads, whether it's yourself or somebody else elaborating on a point in the lesson, or even disputing a point in the lesson. You don't necessarily have to agree what's going on with the lesson. There might be a good counterpoint that you want to provide in a video. And then, of course, things like current events and updates with regard to the material that's being discussed on the page or in the lesson. Those can include clips of courtroom proceedings, news clips, expert interviews, and so many options available. And these are just a few that you might consider adding to enhance the lesson, to increase that engagement with the student, to provide more context, to aid in retention and understanding. Moving on to some of those tools that allow you to provide supplemental information to a lesson. The first is the CALI author feature that are called pop-ups. Pop-ups appear as a link in the text. Once you select that link in the text, it opens up a box on the page to present the information, and the information could be text and or images. Some reasons why you might want to include a pop-up in a lesson is to provide optional reading, right? Things like historical context. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper into a subject, but it doesn't necessarily need to be part of the main text in the lesson, you can provide a pop-up that opens up to more historical context. Things like definitions. The student has the option whether or not they want to select a word to get that definition. They might already know what it means, or you might decide that some students might need a little bit more information. So we can open up to provide a definition. Information on cases, fun facts, you can put whatever you want in those pop-up boxes. Other reasons might be reminders. You might have provided a hypothetical earlier in the lesson, and you are referring to that hypothetical on the current page, and you don't want the student to have to either remember the hypothetical or have to go back in the lesson to review that hypothetical again. You can provide it in a pop-up. So if the student doesn't want to, they don't necessarily have to open it up, but it provides information that the student might need to either gain a full understanding of what's going on the current page or to answer the question that you're presenting. And that applies to other information too, other callbacks to information that appeared earlier in the lesson that you want the student to be able to access again easily on the current page without having to go back. And then, of course, one of the main reasons that people use pop-ups in lessons is to provide sections of the law, right? Sections of the code, statutes, restatements, UCC, all of those things. The law that's being applied to the question or to the conversation, having the student have that accessible on the page so they don't need to stray outside of the lesson or pull up some other source. And then another big reason that authors often use pop-ups are to provide, for instance, the elements of a crime that the student is applying to the facts at hand. All right, so toolbars are similar to pop-ups in that you can provide all the same types of content in them. I think they're most commonly used to provide the text of the applicable law that the students can easily reference on the page, elements, facts, formulas. So if there's a factual scenario that the student is having to refer to in order to answer the questions or to just follow along, to provide those facts easily on the page, but again, not within the text on the main page. The difference is that they appear as buttons on the top of the page as opposed to a link within the text. They open up to a pop-up on the page. So they look the same in the end, but they are placed differently on the page. That button text is customizable. It can say whatever you want it to say. And then the toolbar is a little bit different because they often appear on multiple consecutive pages within the lesson. And I'll show you examples of these. That being said, I'm going to jump over to the CALI website. I'm going to show you how to create these things, how to add these things, and then some examples as well. All right, so I'm at the CALI author homepage. The first thing that I want to do is jump into the media and to show you how to add an image and how to add a video to your lesson. All right, so I'm just going to open up a new lesson. Let's say that I would like to add an image to this text box in this question field, right? So what I want to do is I want to place my cursor where I want the image to appear. And I want to select this image icon from the toolbar at the top. All right, that will open up a box. I want to open up the upload tab. From there, I'm going to choose the file that I want to upload into the lesson. All right, here I'm adding a flow chart. Once I select the image from my computer, I'll select send it to server. If it appears in this preview box, you know that it uploaded successfully. I can adjust the width and the height. If you press this little lock, it will unlock the ratio. You always want to add alt text. And I'm going to select OK. You'll notice that it appears here. And then I'm going to jump over to the student tab to see how it appears in my lesson. So as you saw, I can add it in that initial question field. You can also add it within a feedback field. So here is a question page. Let's say I would like that same flowchart to appear in the feedback for a no response to this question. Same process applies. I put my cursor in that box where I want the image to appear. Choose the file in the upload tab. Select send it to server. This time I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to select 300. There we go. And now if a student selects no, they get both the response and the image that I've added to the lesson. All right. The next example is going to be how to add a video to a lesson. So I'm going to go ahead, and the first step is I need to add a page, and I need to select a text with video page type. You can't just add a video to any page type. You need text with video. All right. So once I have that text with video page, I can add my video. And the way to do that is to scroll down to the video section on that page and then get the video embed code from the YouTube video. So the video first has to be on YouTube. Then you want to take that video embed code and put it in that field. So I'm just going to jump over to one of my old CALI author training series videos that we have on the CALI YouTube. And I'm going to select share. I'm going to select the embed option. And then copy. It will copy that text for me. I will go back to the lesson. I will paste that embed code in the video embed field. Once I jump over to the student tab, you can see that that video now appears and the student will have access and be able to play it on that page. So that's how you add videos and that's how you add images. Just a quick note about the images that I forgot to mention before. Notice that there is a picture section on a page. Ignore that. That's not actually the way to add pictures. The way was by using that image icon in the toolbar. So if you see that, don't be confused. Just ignore it. It's not functional. All right. I'm going to now move on to pop-ups and toolbars. To do so, I'm going to be looking at some existing lessons. So the first lesson that I want to show you is duration of offers. All right, and I will be showing you examples of pop-ups first, and then I'll show you how to create one. So I'm going to jump over to the student tab, and this very first page actually has multiple pop-ups on it. So as you see here, there's some highlighted text. You can tell that it's clickable, and so that means it's either going to open to an external page or it's going to open up to a pop-up within the lesson. And here it is a pop-up. So in this instance, it is giving some additional information about how to determine assent and the test that's required. So this is one of those examples where they're providing additional information, a little bit of a definition of the word being used. A student might already know what assent and intent means, or they may not. And so they have the option of selecting that link, opening it up to learn a little bit more. Another example of a pop-up on this page is that the author uses the applicable restatement sections and provides the text for those restatement sections within the text. So again, if the student doesn't need to see the text of the restatement section being discussed, then they don't need to open it, but it's there and available for them to refer to. All right, 2 more examples within this lesson, and then just a way to determine whether or not a lesson has pop-ups. Notice that this is the outline of the lesson. Below that is the alphabetical index. Those are all the pages in the lesson. And then below it at the very bottom is a list of all the pop-up pages. So if you're wondering, are there pop-ups in the lesson? You don't necessarily need to advance through the lesson and select links. You can see whether or not there are pop-up pages. You can see that in this lesson, there are a number of pop-up pages. We already looked at a few of them in the introduction page. I want to look at 2 more just to show you some other examples of how authors use pop-ups in a lesson. The first is this June 1 notice pop-up. Just a little hint, if you want to figure out where that pop-up is placed in the lesson, select the pop-up page, go to the faculty tab, and this will tell you what pages are leading here. So the pages Revocation 11 and Revocation 12 both use this pop-up on it. I can go ahead and select it and it will take me to that page in the lesson. I'll jump back to the student view, at which point I can actually see the pop-up in action, right? So you can see that here, the author is using it to provide information from a previous page. So let's go ahead and go to that previous page. This information is initially presented on the page Revocation 10. It provides the text of a June 1st notice. The student is presented with a question asking if that June 1st notice is a valid offer. Student answers the question, then they move on to the next page. And the next page says the same facts as before, but assume for the purposes of this question, only that in addition to the June 1st notice, and then it goes on, right? But it provides that text of that June 1st notice again. So in case the student needs to see the text of the June 1st notice, they have it available on the page, easily accessible. They don't have to go back. They don't have to try to remember it. This is a really common usage of a pop-up to provide information that was presented on a previous page that is necessary or helpful for the information or for the question being presented on the current page. And then again, it's used on the subsequent page as well, right? Same facts. Again, in addition to that June 1st notice, it gives you the text of the June 1st notice. I'm going to scroll down to that list of pop-ups again and look at one more example. Once again, I'm going to select the pop-up, use my little trick to jump to where that pop-up is located by selecting the faculty tab. Go to the page that actually presents that pop-up, go to the student tab. Here, it's explicit, review the facts and the problem again, right? So the student was given a problem earlier. Here, they're asking you to answer a question that relies on knowing the facts of that problem. And instead of putting all that information on the page again within the main course of the text, it gives you the facts of the problem, right? So you can go ahead, open up that pop-up box, see that the information is there at your disposal that you can refer to in order to answer the question. So then, how do we create a pop-up? Well, there's this button at the bottom that says Add Pop-up, and that's where you begin if you'd like to create a pop-up. I'm going to Add Pop-up. I'm going to name this Sarah's Pop-up. Here's the text of my pop-up. So if I want to add my text here or an image, pop-ups also allow for images. All right, I'm going to highlight the name of the page because I'm going to need that in order to add the pop-up to my page. Now, let's say I wanted to add the pop-up to Power of Acceptance. Let's just pretend for the sake of example, I want to define Power of Acceptance here, and my pop-up actually describes what Power of Acceptance is. All right, so I'm going to highlight the text. I'm going to select the link icon from the toolbar at the top. I'm going to change the protocol to pop-up. And in that URL field, I'm going to paste or type in the exact name of the page that I named my pop-up. All right, so as you recall, that was Sarah's pop-up. I'm going to select OK. Notice that it shows a link now. I'm going to jump to the student tab. I can see that it is a functional link. Now I'm going to select it, and it's going to look like it's not working just for a second, right? It says it wasn't found. That's a little bug. In order to make it function, just scroll down, select Sarah's pop-up, go back to the page. Now when I do it, it will open up. So there's my text. There's my new pop-up. That's how you add a pop-up. Now, just real quick, we're not going to dive too deep into links because it's pretty similar to other documents. If you wanted to link to an external document, you would do something similar at the outset. And let's say I wanted to link to an external website from the word duration. I would select that link icon and I would just type in the URL, right? So that's the way that you would add a link that would take you to an external website as opposed to adding a pop-up. But it starts the same. You just change the, you add a URL as opposed to the page name, and the protocol is set to pop-up if you're adding a pop-up. That's how you add a pop-up. I'm going to move on to toolbars now, which are similar, but a little bit different than pop-ups. I'm going to exit this lesson, and we're going to actually look at two different lessons to show you examples of toolbars. The first is the lesson IRAC. So in order to determine whether or not a lesson has a toolbar in it, you want to use this checkup tab that I discussed in the previous CALI author training session. The checkup tab, as you recall, breaks down all the page types that are in the lesson. So here you can see pages with toolbars, and that there are 5 pages within the lesson that contain a toolbar. All right, I'm not actually going to select it right now because I want to show you how they appear as you advance through the lesson. So just recall here that issue statement Q1 is the first page where we see a pop-up. If I go back to the lesson, I'm going to choose the student view. Notice that there's no button at the top of this page. Issue statements overview, again, no button at the top of this page. Now I'm going to select next. And notice that when I advance to the next page, this button at the top appeared, right? And in this case, the author provides the formula for issue statements. This section involves issue statements, and it provides the formula that the student uses. And so the formula is there, available for the student to refer back to help them answer these questions. There's the formula. It's always there at the top. So that's one example of a toolbar being used in a lesson. The second example is from lesson hybrid transactions. Let's look for that lesson. Once again, I'll go to the checkup tool. I can see pages with toolbars here. I'm going to go ahead and select one of those to show you an example. So in this instance, the author is using the toolbar to provide the text of the relevant UCC section, right? And so this particular lesson does that a lot. Here's the official comment to section 2.102, right? And so as you proceed through the lesson, the comments and the UCC sections that are being discussed on the page are available for the student to use. They don't need to go to an external source or to a previous section in the lesson to obtain that information, to both help them understand what's going on the page and apply it to the questions that are being presented. One kind of fun way that an author has used a toolbar is in the example Wetlands Basic. Last example, in this particular fact scenario, in this hypothetical, there are a number of resources that the student needs in order to answer the question. One is the facts, another one is a map of development. So this is a good use of the author using an image in a toolbar, as well as a permit application. So here, there are a number of resources that apply to the question that are available for the student to select and view when answering the question. All right, so now how to actually make a toolbar. I'm going to jump back to CALI Author, and I'm just going to go to a blank lesson again. And I'm going to add a few pages just to show you how these function. All right. Okay, so I have 4 pages in this question section. In this example, I want my toolbar to start on question 2, stay through question 3, and then disappear by question 4. In order to create a toolbar, the first thing I want to do is similar to when I created a pop-up. I'm going to actually add a pop-up page. That's how you start a toolbar. I'm going to name this Sarah's Toolbar. I'm going to go ahead and copy that text because, again, I'm going to need that later. Here's the text of my pop-up. I'm not going to change it right now, but just assume that I have added the information that I want to appear in that box once I select the button to open up the toolbar. All right. So now that I actually have my toolbar, again, I'm going to copy the name of the pop-up page. Now, again, as you recall, I want to have that toolbar first appear on question 2. So what I want to do is open up this toolbar button section on the page, change the number of toolbar buttons from 0 to 1. Here I'm only adding 1 toolbar, but as you can see, you can add up to 9 buttons at the top of the page. Here is the name of the button. So let's say that this particular toolbar contains the facts of a hypothetical that I presented to a student on a previous page, and I want them to be able to refer back to those facts on the current page and on the subsequent page. So I'm going to go ahead and name the button facts. In the link section, what you want to include is the word popups, :// and hint, you can copy it from other toolbars, so you don't have to remember it. It's also available in the CALI Author how-to guide that's available online. But you want to start with popup, :// and then the exact name of the page of the pop-up that you created for this toolbar. Now notice there's a little facts button at the top. So if I start with question 1, notice that it's not there. If I advance to question 2, there's my toolbar. Now I'm going to advance to question 3. It's still there. And it's still on 4. So as you recall, I want it to disappear by question 4. So the thing about toolbars is that they will stay on the page until you tell it not to. So I'm going to go to question 4. I'm going to open up that toolbar section. The default is that it keeps the previous toolbars. I'm going to change that to remove previous toolbar buttons. Now it will disappear once we hit question 4. So there's question 3. The toolbar is at the top. Once I advance to question 4, the toolbar disappears because I told it to remove the previous toolbar. So that's how you create toolbars, that's how you create pop-ups, and that's how you add media to your lesson. Please reach out if you have questions about anything that we discussed today, anything in the previous sections, or anything at all as you edit and author CALI lessons.